Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show. My name's Phil Tarrant, editor of Smart Property Investment, also a property investor. We're going to pick up our conversation with property investor Julian Lancey, also known as MC Anzac. He joined us a couple of weeks ago where we had a chat about his history sort of buying property and his views on the market right now. We've also got Russell Stevenson here. He heads up our wealth products here at Sterling Publishing. He's come and joined us. And we're just off air. We're having a chat about a place he's got, 17 square metre apartment up in King's Cross way.
Well, actually, the 17 square metre one is just off Oxford Street on Crown Street or Crown Road. What is it? It's Crown Street, yeah. The one in King's Cross, but you know, when you buy it, they say it's Potts Point.
Okay.
Because Russell Crowe lives there. Does he live there?
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Wharf there. So you got one on Oxford Street, is that right?
It's just off. It's
okay.
Crown Street, which is it crosses
Crown of Oxford.
Yep. And it's a studio that's very small at 17 metres squared. My other one in King's Cross is a bit bigger. It's like 23 metres squared, which is still really small. But having said that, they're so easy to let out, and so many people they don't care that it's small. They don't care at all. They just want location. They want in the city. They want near a train station. They want fast internet access.
And at that size, are they renting for long term? Are they in there for sort of 6-12 months? Or
a bit of both. Look, I have had people live in this one in King's Cross for 2 years. I guess you're used to what you're used to. They like it. And we talked before about people from Europe and people from Japan live in a shoebox. And that's just what they're used to. But, Aussies come around and think, oh, God, I can't swing a cat in here. I can't swing a mouse in here. It's tiny. And I do get the long term, but I do get the short term as well. And if I do get the short term and it's over a interesting time, such as, Christmas or Mardi Gras, we talked about Oxford Street, then I ask for a bit more money and I've never had problem finding someone in the years.
So if you didn't catch up with our podcast a couple of weeks back, Julian's a teacher.
Yep, English teacher.
Before that, he was on the... he went to university, did a business degree, then he went and partied for a couple of years like we all do overseas.
Yep.
He's pretty handy with the microphone and likes to do a bit of a rap and stuff, which he doesn't do that anymore. Now he's a die-hard dad and property investor.
That's right, yep.
So these two properties, so King's Cross or Potts Point,
yep.
and they're in sort of Crown Street, Oxford Street way.
Yep.
How much you buy these places for?
One was 220, one was 200,000. So now they've probably gone up about 100,000 each of them, and that's in 5 or 4 years. One I got 4 years ago, another one I got 5 years, which sounds like a lot, but if you compare it to most properties in Sydney, how much they've gone up in the past 4 or 5 years, 100,000 is nothing, absolutely nothing. But, at the same time too, they bring in more rent than they cost in regards to their mortgage and all the strata and council a week. So cash flow.
Just to recap on our last sort of catch up in the studio, you've got your principal place of residence and then 5 other properties.
That's right.
2 of these being these studios.
That's right. Yep.
These 2 are obviously sort of smaller areas, smaller sort of sizes, but in what you could probably consider more blue chip sort of inner city locations.
Definitely.
You also and you mentioned, I think last time, you've also got something out west as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
One out west.
So
as well.
it's not just right. We've got to be within 5 k's of the city, or I'm not in. You're quite diverse in terms of your Sydney sort of locations.
Anything that is geographically, okay for me to go to and change a light bulb. Because I manage them myself.
That's right.
And I did think, can I get one in Newcastle or Wollongong? But, if something happens, I think that's a bit too far, for me to manage it myself. I guess that was my idea, like geographically.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, obviously, in the last episode, of the sort of upsides of managing your own portfolio. Just to bring it back, obviously, talking about these properties that you've sort of got in Oxford Street and what have you. You mentioned some interesting tenants and an interesting property.
Yeah.
Let's get back to that because we were talking about this off air. But you're sort of talking about one of the places, and when you bought it, this was?
No. This is when I lease it out myself.
Yeah.
And I've got a beautiful wife, and she helps me lease it as well. And a beautiful baby that you might hear in the background having a little cry. She's with me 3 days a week. And so I went to this property in King's Cross and to show some new tenants that wanted to move in. And we walked inside, and right in the middle of this small 23 metre square apartment was a big stripper's pole. And these new tenants, they looked at me and they said, "What's that?" And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, and I thought, first, like my
Makes me up.
Yeah. Real estate, thinking on the feet. I didn't know, and I thought, geez, I hope it's nothing structural or anything like that. Doesn't look good. But I had a feel of it, and it's a stripper's pole. So that made sense. And then I looked on the ceiling, and it's covered in feet prints and fingerprints,
What was the people looking around? What was their reaction?
Well, they're like, what's going on here? And I said, because I manage it myself, I always suspected something. Like I was asked, Julian, I missed the bank today. It closed before I was up to put the money in. Can you come in to King's Cross and pick up cash for this week? And I'm like, well, not really. I'm at home with a little baby.
Yeah.
I can't. My days of going into King's Cross in the middle of the night and picking up cash are over. So that's another story. But anyway, it turned out okay.
Having somebody in there and putting obviously a stripper's pole in and were they obviously still living in there? There was beds in there, and that was obviously just their practice area, was it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there
maybe
was,
they were again trying to get some interesting tax breaks.
Yeah, possibly.
Oh yes,
Work
my
from
home
home.
office.
Yeah.
How did you go getting finance on these two properties? Being a studio, was there any restrictions?
Unfortunately there is, and I really think this restriction should change, and that is that with a property under a certain size, and I think it's 47 metres squared or 45 metres squared, under a size, and that also is internal area, 47 or 45 internally, so it doesn't matter if it's got a huge balcony. You must pay, that's Isabella screaming in the background, you must pay 20% deposit. And I'm a big believer that should be gone. In fact, I've sent emails to Ian Narev, the CEO of Commonwealth Bank, and said this is an obsolete rule. This is ridiculous. People are happy to live in small places. Small places are in fact better investments. They're safer. They require less renovation. There's more demand for them. They're in better locations.
Did you get a response?
No, but I sent a few. But I'm one of those people that like to chase, and try and get an answer. I even called up and said, look, I'd like to speak to the CEO, but no, it doesn't happen like that with big banks, unfortunately.
Did you say MC Anzac's on the phone?
That's what I should have said. I should have kept it real.
I know over the years some of the high-profile real estate agents in Australia, there used to be a lot of stigma around investing in studios and one-bedroom apartments, people thinking that they didn't make good investment opportunities. But some people have been very vocal about the opportunities they provided, because when you look at the changing nature of how people are living these days, they're staying single longer, or they're not getting married or hitched at all. So there's a lot of one single people households these days, and they don't need to be living in 3-bedroom apartments if that's the case. So studios and one-bedders are particularly close to the city CBDs are becoming very, very popular.
Well, you've said it. What is more important, size or location? And for most people, not everybody, for most people it's location. They would sacrifice another room for the heart of the city or close to a beach, okay? Because that's
and all this stuff influences your decision where you want to invest.
And look, just to go on another point is, different countries have different ideas of what's big and what's small and what's acceptable and what's not. And from Europe and Japan, it's small places just fine.
So you manage all your own properties?
Yep.
Which is cool. If you've got the bandwidth, the time, the inclination, the skills to do that, it makes a lot of sense.
I think everybody.
And you save a bit of money, you get more money in your back pocket.
I think everybody should manage their own property, actually, Phil.
You reckon that the there's some good apps these days out there that can help you manage your stuff pretty effectively.
Well, even, years ago to set up a direct debit was something you had to go directly into a bank and do. Now you can get on your iPhone and within 2 minutes you can set up a direct debit. And things have changed. I believe that it's easier to find property and to buy property and to manage property with these wonderful little things in our pockets called smartphones. And these little things in our pockets called smartphones are replacing the need for property managers and buyers agents. That's how I.
How much time a week would you spend on property? I know you like doing it, so it's a bit of a loaded question, but I look at myself and I should spend a lot more time on my property portfolio than what I do every week. It's sort of sometimes languishes and doesn't do anything, and I don't really have the time to look after stuff. But for you, how do you find the time to look after your property portfolio, or you make the time, and how long do you spend a week?
I mean, it's hard with a full-time job and other commitments like wife and baby and mortgages and I'm studying as well, doing my masters. Sometimes I absolutely spend no time on my properties for a week, a fortnight, even a month. And sometimes if there's something to do, for example, a priority, say get a tenant in, then I just drop everything and I have to do that. So I don't really have an answer how much time I spend on my property a week, a month, a year, because it just changes.
Obviously, managing your own property portfolio, when you've got obviously vacancy in these properties, how are you advertising it? How are you getting the word out there? Are you spending marketing dollars to push your property? Is that something that eats into the cash flow?
No, I spent absolutely nothing. In the past 10 years, I've never spent $1 on marketing and finding a tenant. And I know if you go to, an agency, they will ask for hundreds, maybe even thousands to find tenants, and then you have a letting fee and other fees as well if there's ever problems or this or that. We've had to send a bit of paper and So
where are you getting your tenants from? How are they finding you?
Well, there's a few different ways. We talked about apps. There's an app called Gumtree that I use, which is huge. It was, even a few years ago, it was only kind of backpackers that found accommodation on Gumtree. But now, if you get on right now, you can find fantastic properties that are, in the best suburbs in Sydney available for rent on Gumtree. They're not targeting, it's not just a backpackers accommodation, flat share kind of thing anymore. It's really stepped up, and it's in fact, agents themselves are now advertising on Gumtree because that's where you find it.
That's where people are finding properties. I think it's a good point. It's essential to be quite reactive with your property portfolio because what worked today or what worked yesterday or last year might not be working.
Well, people don't look in the paper. It's as simple as that. And that's not even just for properties to rent. That's properties to buy. I mean, do people really look in a paper now to when they want to buy a property?
Back in the day, seeing all the listings, circling them, and working out where you've got to be, and chasing around the hotspots.
Now you've got apps that do it.
I think on the buying side, I think for a lot of if I was selling a property, I'd be looking towards print as definitely a vehicle for trying to promote and market that property. I think that's very different these days. But I think for houses to let, most people just jump on real estate or Domain and just quick look at or Gumtree.
Maybe, but I'm sure you agree it's changing.
It's always changing. It's always evolving, and I think it's becoming more and more competitive. So you've got 5 investment properties in a principal place of residence.
Yep.
How many of your investment properties have you done some work to renovation-wise?
All of them.
So you've renovated all of them?
All of them,
And you've done all the work yourself?
All myself, all found out how to do this or that on YouTube. You just, for example, you need to change a toilet, you need to put in floorboards.
What's been the biggest job? What's the most
putting
challenging?
In floorboards.
Floorboards, yeah.
And it worked. Say I did it for a 2-bedder in Balgala, and then I went to put it in that 17 tiny metre squared place in Darlinghurst, and it didn't work. It was just like a complete disaster, So I ended up buying carpet, and cost me I think it was $21 or something and just throwing it down on top of all.
What's your biggest epic renovation failure?
Oh, that'd be it.
Is that it?
Putting in floorboards, and see, when you put in these floating floorboards, can you remember doing a puzzle, back in kindergarten?
Yeah, they
you
snap
remember?
in and-
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a bit like that. And if it doesn't go in here, then a metre or two over here it won't work, and it was a disaster. But anyway, I don't regret it.
You don't think that you should have just got some tradies in to help you out, or is it?
Sometimes I do. Not so much for that, because it was an easy fix. I bought, $20 a carpet and threw it down. But when I put in a vanity, is it that right? The sink vanity.
Yeah.
That was just doing stuff I didn't know how to do. But
Is it a case of you enjoy this now, or is it just purely on cost saving?
Oh, it's a bit of both, I think.
You must get satisfaction though. Like,
Yeah.
I know whenever I do a reno, I look at it and go, it looks pretty good.
In your eyes.
I sit there, I puff my chest out, start walking around with a bit of swagger.
Yeah, but there's plenty of things out there to help you. And I'm not just talking about your tradie mates,
Yeah.
I'm talking about
A lot of self-help videos.
Yeah,
and
YouTube and information. Even Google it, and you can find out what to do and what.
It's amazing what you can turn your hand to, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's the plan for you, mate? I know when we met a couple of weeks ago, you said you're sort of at that point right now where obtaining finance is getting a little bit difficult
Yep,
because of your
yep.
serviceability.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
what stage are you in now? You're just going to sit there, wait, hold, and generate some more equity and change your position so you can be more attractive to some lenders? to
I
get some
would
finance?
love to buy another place. I've just moved one of my properties from a major bank. Am I allowed to say banks? Names of banks?
Sure.
Yeah.
From National Bank to Pepper Bank.
Okay.
And that's
Is that Pepper the non-bank lender?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so this is one of these banks that don't exist. There's no ATMs. They do have online, and you can call them up, and they're fantastic. Great service. But you can't go into a branch on George Street and get out $50. They're an online bank, and so that was something that was really good. So I guess your question was what's for the future of MC Anzac and property. I'd love to buy another one. If I can, I will. If not, I'm just going to juggle these, I guess.
It's not a bad strategy, It's I don't really like using cliche terms and stuff, but it's not timing your market and property. It's time in the market with property. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you've got some great assets that you're sitting on right now, and you've invested in good locations. They're
Yep.
all Sydney based, and I
Yep.
know that you've got some reservations to invest outside of Sydney because you like the idea of being able to manage your own properties, and that's something
Yeah.
that you'll work through yourself. And if
Yep.
you make a decision that you don't want to invest elsewhere because you want to manage your own properties,
Yeah.
that's cool. But Borkham Hills, great space.
Yeah.
The northwest rail link going through, so
Yeah.
you probably can't go too wrong there. Your inner city properties, they're always going to be high demand.
Yeah.
It might be a bit transient, the
Yeah.
type of investors going through, but if you've got the time and the capacity to be able to manage that shift of tenants
Of course.
at a constant basis,
Yep.
absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
It's generating cash, it's
Of
paying down your
course.
mortgages, and the things are going up in value.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why we
And
do
plus
it.
we
isn't it?
get my wife and I, between tenants living there, we'll go in and we'll stay there.
Yeah.
And we have a great time.
Yeah.
I live in Manlyvale, a suburban area. But, geez, living in the city, I don't know where you guys live, but even for a night or two, it's fantastic.
Great fun.
Okay,
walk
so
downstairs.
let's say someone turns up today, gives you your deposit for your next place. Where are you buying?
Well, where do I think there'll be most capital growth? I think Brisbane and around there, but I think we'll have lots of growth in Melbourne. I can't answer to you anywhere in New South Wales because I talked about before that I'm at this threshold of land tax, so I'm.
So that was in the last episode, yeah.
Yeah, I can't choose New South Wales again. So to get out of that, I've got to think outside. So outside New South Wales. If I could buy anywhere, it'd be Sydney. Apart from that, it would be Brisbane or Melbourne.
We could chat about this all day, but time has run out. Really enjoyed it, MC. I could just call him MC now.
Yeah,
MC Anzac.
I feel as cool as you guys. Yeah, I'll shake my gold again.
You're natural around the mic.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
We're going to put MC Anzac's his portfolios up on Smart Property Investment. There's
Yep,
a feature
sure
there
is.
from a little while ago, but we're going to update that as well. So go and check it out. You can get a little bit more of his story there as well. Russell, thanks for joining us, mate.
Mate, always. It's great.
I'll get you back again soon. I think you passed the grade, so you might make you a regular guest. You can follow me on Twitter at Philip Tarrant. Also check out Smart Property Investment. That's www.smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. You'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all over the place as well. This podcast is ranking really well on iTunes, guys, so thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave us a review or give us a rating. 5 stars, it's best if you could do that. We want to keep pushing forward and delivering this commentary and these insights from investors to you from across the nation. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for coming along, and we'll have you back both again soon.